Oh, what the heck was that?
That was sound effects. We have sound effects now to get everyone's attention.
Basically, somebody coughed Gesundheit.
There you go. All right, the time being 9:01 a.m. on August 17th, 2023. I'd like to call this meeting to order of Kane County's Public Service Committee. Clerk, please call the roll for attendance.
Gums, Lewis,
Who's here?
Surgis, Tepe,
Steppy here.
Williams,
Williams present remote.
Young,
Young here.
Sanchez.
Sanchez present.
You have a quorum in the room.
And two of our committee members requested remote attendance. Those two being Mr. Williams and Mr. Surgis, who I believe just joined us. Is there any objection to allowing those two members to take part in the meeting as voting members? Hearing none, we'll move on. Approval of the minutes for July 20th, 2023. I need a motion and a second to approve those minutes.
Mr. Chair, I ask for unanimous consent.
Any objection to unanimous consent? Minutes are approved. A public comment on agenda items. We are adhering to our policy to separate the agenda and non-agenda items. I know there is Mr. Zitko. I had tried to sign in and had some difficulties, but did express his interest to us. Mr. Zitko, I see you are online. Is your comments, do they pertain to agenda items or non-agenda items?
It is an agenda item.
Okay. You will have 5 minutes and whenever you're ready.
Okay. So thank you. I'm Ken Zitko, and I've been in Kane County for 32 years. And I'm just speaking to a matter that'll be discussed over the course of the meeting to some degree as an initial introduction related to the Kane County Election Commission and the idea of forming one by ordinance, something that the board can do. So Mark Avalar and David Young will speak in more detail about the actual proposal and where we're at and some of the reasons and the value to why that's a good idea strategically for the county. I just wanted to add some comments. I'm remote today because I'm in Missouri at a election conference, and I guess it's a poignant example of the fact that, you know, this is an issue that isn't going anywhere. The people of our county, of our state, of our country have limited trust in our election system and election process. And that's not an attack on any individual or even the sum of the whole of the individuals that are trying to execute elections. It's about the state of mind of the people in our country. And one of the things we've seen in the recent past is a steady decline in the number of people who participate in elections. And then the need for a concerted effort to try to convince them to come back and vote and have faith in the system. You know, it really boils down to transparency. This event that I'm at is focusing a great deal on transparency, and that'll be a primary benefit of having this election commission. People want to understand what's happening. They want to know the details of changes in processes and what's considered. And we've, I think, demonstrated, the public has demonstrated that, you know, we genuinely are interested. There's been a great deal of turnout at the committee meetings and board meetings as of late, people wanting to share their opinion and be heard. And that should extend into the election process as well. And I think it would only help bolster the trust of the people of King County. So I just wanted to share that idea and then leave it there. And then, as I said, Mr. Avalar and Mr. Young will speak in more detail to the King County Election Commission itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zitko. We only had one other person sign up for public comment, Mr. Avalar. He signed up through that portal, but we'll call on him when we get to the discussion item under other business. Moving on, finance reports. If you have any questions about that, please contact the finance department. Recorder's office, their report is on file. Treasurer, Mr. Lawson, treasurer in his capacity as the county collector.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. It's nice to be with you this morning. This morning, I'm reporting on the collection side of the treasurer's office. We submitted our report about a week ago today. And let's see, as of tomorrow, we'll have 2 more weeks for the second installment payments to collect all of the property taxes and then get that money distributed. So, so far, so good. You know, a lot of the emphasis in our office is on interest income on the reserves. However, none of that's possible until we do a smooth operation of collecting and distributing the property taxes. And that's a matter of our team taking care of the constituents as they come through the door. So that's where we are today. And we're just a little bit ahead of schedule. It's going along pretty routinely. So that's it.
Excellent. Any questions for the treasurer's office? Thank you, Mr. Lawson.
Okay, thank you,
Appreciate it.
Chairman.
Supervisor of Assessments, Mr. Armstrong.
Good morning, everyone. My report is on page 33 of your packet. As is always this time of year, the reporting deadlines and the speed at which we're working means by the time you get the packets, there needs to be some updating. So if you want to get out your pens and update on the schedule for certification, the Big Rock Township final equalization factor is 1.0659. And the final filing deadline for Big Rock Township will be September 25th, 2023. They should publish a week from today. Everything else is in the packet. I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Any questions for Mr. Armstrong today? Mr.
Yeah,
Tech.
thank you. Mark, when do you think the Elgin Township will be published?
Because it's one of the larger townships and they certified to us closer to the June 15th deadline. It'll be one of the last ones done. But as you can see, we have 4 townships left. So I would assume that I'm going to presume sometime in early September for a publication date. And that would be a final filing date of 30 days hence from that. Typically, final filing dates have been slightly longer than 30 days, mainly because Illinois has a law, which is, I'm not making this up, it's called the Statute on Statutes. It's actually a law about interpretation. But what it says is if the final date of a deadline for something to be done happens on a date which the government body is not open, you automatically move to the next day it is open. So when we publish on a Thursday, their final filing deadline would end up on a Saturday. We are not open Saturdays, so it goes to the next date. That would be a Monday, unless Monday's a holiday, in which case it goes to Tuesday. We have some of those coming up. That's why we just like to give specific dates on those. But until we know the publication date, then that will be the issue. Now, most townships, we know the publication date will be on a Thursday because most of the newspapers we publish in are weekly papers. But the Elgin newspaper is in the Elgin Courier News, and that is not just Thursday only. So with that, it'll be sometime after that.
Thanks. Monday, Friday, and Sunday.
As newspapers seem to be used less and less, I wonder if other mechanisms for these announcements will be, proposed.
That would certainly be my preference. This year, I'm spending $170,000 to publish in newspapers that have very, very, very small circulations. It's simply not an efficient way to do it. However, it is the lawful way to do it. And if we don't publish in the newspaper, there could easily be a tax objection complaint saying, I'd like all my money back because there was no legal notice. Even if that taxpayer got a letter in the mail, doesn't matter. That newspaper is the primary means of notification for assessment changes in Illinois. And unless the General Assembly decides something different, That will still be that way. The general courts have ruled that that law is not directory, but mandatory. So strict compliance is necessary. So we're very strict about it, even though it does cost quite a bit of taxpayer money that could easily be spent elsewhere or even not spent at all. But that's not up to us. That's a mandate that comes to us from Springfield.
Maybe our legislative committee can take that up at some point.
I would certainly encourage that. It's something that comes up every few years. The Illinois Press Association will object to that. If they follow what they've done in the past, they will accuse everyone who is involved in trying to avoid being upfront and public and open about everything. Because as some people have told me, there are some newspapers in Illinois that if they don't have these legal notice publications, they cannot survive. And they're probably true. So if they argue back like they're fighting for their financial lives, it's probably because they are. I'm sympathetic to that. I love newspapers, but I'm just not sure that we should be in the business of subsidizing them.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Fruit for further conversations for another committee, but thank you.
Yeah,
for your-
nothing we're going to settle today,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
certainly. I was just curious.
Mr.
Any other
Chairman,
questions?
Surges.
Surges, go ahead.
So, Mr. Armstrong, I've up at the north end, I've had several phone calls from constituents with larger properties, 100,000 square feet or more. And between the interest rates and property tax increases, we've seen these individuals going back to their lenders, asking to go to interest-only loans, modify their loan packages, just to be able to make it through the next year or two while they have the opportunity to catch up on rents and get it stabilized. And boy, some of this is really a 1-2 punch. And as I've looked at the math, some of them that have come to my office and shown me the math, I'm nervous at this point moving forward. And really, I wish we had some way to be proactive with an education process, if you will, with some expectations for those businesses, who might have in a commercial setting a multi-year lease that transcends. I'm probably not explaining that right, but
I understand exactly where you're going with this. This is certainly, it's something that's not new. The Supreme Court actually addressed this directly on point in 1970 in Springfield Marine Bank versus Property Tax Appeal Board. The main thing that we encourage everyone to remember is what's being valued are all the rights that accrue to a property, not the rights that are being held by the owner. So if an owner leases a property, let's say at a below market or above market interest rate or lease rate, those property rights, which include the right to enter and exit and the right to occupy the property and use it, have been transferred to another person under contract. Those rights don't necessarily lose value because of that, but they are held by something different. Now in Springfield Marine, it was exactly like that. Somebody had a multi-year lease. It was now below market and thought the taxes should be reduced accordingly. And the Supreme Court's rule, which is pretty plainly set out, is that while it's understandable why the owner would think that, those rights don't lose value by leasing. And so what we have to do is base it on the market rent, not the contract rent. Now, if they're leasing it for above market, that also is based on market rent, not contract rent. And that would be a bonus going to the owner, and that's not taxed either. So we want to make sure as everyone understands the way taxes are levied, and this is no change. It's been this way for at least 100 years, but certainly the Supreme Court's holding in 1970 has been around for a half century at this point. Many commercial leases that I run into actually have tax escalators and pass-throughs, where those taxes, any increases in taxes are actually passed on to the tenants. And good commercial leasing agents can explain how that works and help property owners find that. In another vein, though, to the extent anyone thinks their property is not correctly assessed, they should first talk to their township assessor. And if they are not satisfied there, they should definitely file an assessment complaint to the Board of Review. But that all needs to be done up front. By the time property tax bills come out, it's too late to do that. So it has to be done at this stage. Did that answer your question, Mr. Surgis?
On a fact-based response, absolutely. In reality, we're keeping Mr. Belak's office hopping. Let's just put it that way.
Right. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Armstrong.
You're welcome.
Regional Office of Education.
Good morning. With me today is Josh Axelson, our Coordinator of Alternative Programs. And we're here just to give you an update on where we're at with back to school. So if you probably drove past any school and the traffic was increased a little bit, you'll notice that our kids are back in session, except for one of our districts starts next week. But otherwise, schools are gearing into session, which means our office is very busy, from everything from transportation, training classes for bus drivers, to licensing for teachers at the last minute, but also with our alternative programs and making sure we address the needs of our districts for all kids. And so our A-lot programs are beginning to not only re-enroll students and make sure that they have those students' needs met, but also enrolling new students into those programs. We have the A-lot programs, which is another educational acronym for Alternative Learning Opportunity Programs, and our regional safe school programs, which are school programs created for students in lieu of expulsion. And so it gives them kind of their last opportunity in the public schools to be educated. Last year, we started a community partnership program for our ALOPs to serve our students, our parents, and our educators to provide whatever services they need, including wonderful things like horseback riding. So really connecting the students to the community and really encouraging those pro-social activities. And so that's that program is up and running thanks to grant funding from the Illinois State Board of Education. And so we have about 27 alternative locations, plus the Juvenile Justice Center. And then, all of our truancy staff are out making sure that the kids are returning to school. That's where we're at.
Excellent. Any questions for the Regional Office of Education?
I just have a quick question.
Ms. Lewis?
What was the name of that program?
The Alternative Learning Opportunity Program or the Community Partnership.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
The
let's burn it
Community
down.
Partnership Program is, we have 2 community intervention specialists that are assigned to our ALOP and regional safe school programs to work exclusively with the students on caseload there to really connect them to mental health, to pro-social, to, provide family counseling as needed, whatever the kids need to be successful.
That's critical. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's talk about that later.
I have a brochure if you'd like one.
Yes,
Any other questions for ROE? All right. Thank you very much for being here.
Welcome.
Veterans Assistance Commission, Mr. Zimmerman.
Good morning. My report is on page 36 of your agenda packets. Pretty standard monthly report here. Our veterans who filed their paperwork to the VA with our office are seeing their applications processed faster than the average Illinois veteran is. That's good. Our claims inventory remains high, mainly due to the Federal PACT Act that was passed and the 1-year deadline on that, or the 1-year anniversary that just passed. So there's a big emphasis to get claims filed before that 1-year deadline. We've brought in $4.4 million in new benefits this fiscal year. We're going to be shattering every record that we've ever set in our office this fiscal year. So we're pretty happy about that. And that's with a few months left in the fiscal year as well. The VA, I'll note something I don't normally do in my monthly report. The VA released their annual distribution of expenditures, geographic distribution of expenditures. And that showed that the federal VA spent $151 million here in Kane County in 2022. 78 million of that went to direct disability payments for our veterans, and another 64 million went to provide for healthcare for the veterans that live here in Kane County, with the balance going to things like life insurance and GI Bill payments. With that, I'll be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Any questions from the Veterans Assistance Commission? Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman.
Thank you.
County Clerk, I believe Mr. Pollock is here today.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Actually, I did have a question for the ROE. Could you ask her why she ended summer already? I mean, come on, kids are in school, summer's over.
Everybody wants to know.
It's an emotional end.
I know, I'm just kidding.
There's always weekends.
So, couple things. You have our report, but we are entering, I guess, if we're ending summer or entering campaign season. So it's petition season will be officially beginning on September 5th. If you go to our website, one thing to point out, I know on other committees may have talked about the migration of domain names. You can still get to kanecounty-elections.org, but the official website has changed. It's clerk.kanecountyil.gov. All the websites I think have gone to kanecountyil.gov and something in between. So clerk.kanecountyil.gov. If you want /elections to go directly to that, you want the main website, clerk.kanecountyil.gov. And on that page, you will see there's a link to petition packets under the election link. So we have the sample petition, nominating petitions, as well as some of the other documents that candidates may need. So if you go there, you can find that. Has the number of minimum signature requirements, all the things that you're looking for if you're running for office. The petition filing dates. So we said petition circulation can begin on September 5th. And then the filing period is November 27th to December 4th over in clerk's office in Geneva. More information will be coming up. We will be publishing the election calendar as well. That should be up on the website, hopefully today or tomorrow. And then we'll have IT will print some of those calendars. So they'll be available in the clerk's office for you to pick them up if you would like. Let's see other highlights to go along with the Veterans Affairs Commission. We're shattering records of our own in terms of passports. If you look, we're ahead of 2022's pace, which was a record in its own set. On your monthly report in terms of passport fees, we're way ahead of where we were even last year, and we were way ahead last year than every other year. Again, it's non-tax revenue, non-property tax revenue that's coming in to help the general fund. We appreciate your support and what we've done. If you we're ahead of our projected revenue in terms of the budget, so that's always a good thing. We try to run the office in a fiscally responsible way, which is probably why the city of Aurora got rid of the election commission in 2018. We've saved the taxpayers of Kane County and the city of Aurora millions of dollars, and we look forward to continue doing that. So if you have any questions on the report.
Any questions for the clerk's office? Okay, thank you, Mr. Pollock.
Thank you.
Okay, other business, we do have one item, discussion on formation of a county election commission. As I mentioned previously, we do have Mr. Mark Avalar, who has been working with committee member Dave Young on this topic to explore the option to see what this committee thinks of it. And I guess, Mr. Young, I'll let you take it over and introduce Mr. Avalar.
Okay, thank you. And this was from a public service committee meeting we had when Jack was here. And he had actually suggested in that meeting that we form a panel for the election commission. And he was actually talking to Mark Avalar, who was in the audience sitting right there. And so at that meeting, Chairman Sanchez suggested that I look into forming this. And so I contacted Mark Avalar and Ken Zitko and asked them to help me with this, because this is It's something that I have not looked into in the past, but apparently they have. They've spent a lot of time looking into what it would take to do this, why would it would be beneficial for the citizens of Kane County. And so I've really heavily relied on Mark and Ken to put together a presentation, and Mark is going to be presenting this, but Ken is going to be able to add any comments to this as well. So we just wanted to present this idea to the committee to start a discussion. I did have a draft of an ordinance created that we can bring to the Public Service Committee next month, but I didn't want to do that this month because I wanted just to get the idea in front of everybody and to have a discussion. So that's really it. We'll let Mark take it over from here.
Thank you, Mr. Young, for the introduction. And on your screen, you should be seeing a presentation deck concerning the justification of the county board to transition elections to a county election commission. I'm going to start this out with, if my clicker will work here.
Yeah, we can advance it here if you don't.
Could you advance? Yeah, advance to slide 2. Right now, there are many residents of the Chicago Collier counties. One already mentioned that he's doing this. They're down in Springfield, but they're not down in Springfield, Illinois, enjoying the Illinois State Fair. Yeah.
Mark, hold on a second. Blair said that you have, there you go.
I got it. Thank you. All right.
So you have control, Mark?
I now have control. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Springfield, Illinois is where this Illinois State Fair is, but many, including many friends of ours, including my own, including Ken and several grassroots groups I work with, they're in Springfield, Missouri at this point, and they're attending the Mike Lindell's Election Summit, the 2-day event to unveil the plan. I really have not been following this, but I do know that this is just an example of the passion that many residents, not just in Kane County, but also across the Collier counties and in Illinois, have with election integrity. So that is taking place as we speak, and it's just coincidental that it's on the same date. So getting back to Kane County, this proposal, it's not part of any plan marketed by an out-of-state special interest. I want to be very clear about this. Coincidences aside, this is a holistic and genuine grassroots mainstream idea of using the laws currently on the Illinois books to benefit our home county, Kane County, to improve election integrity. And I know our clerk's election division has been recognized nationally. That doesn't mean we can't be getting better. And those familiar with any form of capability maturity models will know continuous improvement is the highest level of maturity. But one thing I'm going to point out with some comments made in the past month, this proposal is not a punitive action against Clerk Cunningham or any of his predecessors or any eventual successors over questions about election integrity. Indeed, this expands upon something Clerk Cunningham said at the June Public Service Committee of a Citizens Election Advisory Board. So an election commission actually is in line with that and expands it. But something I want to bring attention that was said last month, actually the last couple of months, about the old Aurora Election Commission. This is not about bringing back that bloated level of government that was out of the city of Aurora. And any other municipal election commission that could pop up, because under existing law, any municipality in Kane County, including the city of Aurora, could bring it back through a petition of the circuit court to create an election commission that the county must fund. That is in the existing statute, section 6 of the election code, if memory serves correctly. So what are the logistics to implement the plan? The county board passes an ordinance to transition the operation and administration of the county's local election authority from the clerk to the new CEC, the County Election Commission. The county board chair, with the advice and consent of the county board, would appoint the CEC board. And there will be a transition of the election division from the clerk, possibly in time for the next fiscal year on December 1st. And this should be seamless to voters. We're not getting rid of the election division. This is not about that. The employees are all valued, and this is not about changing them out with someone else. This is about a transition of management to an elected board that can discuss policy decisions in under the Open Meetings Act. And I've got a small list here, and I also know I am running out of time. So I just want to make sure that it's clear that topics like here, topics that are initiated by municipalities like ranked choice voting that the city of Evanston approved at referendum last fall, can be covered through an election commission and how it's going to be implemented in a public body. And questions coming back, say like from the May 31st meeting that some of us are still awaiting answers to, we can discuss that at that point. I know I went fast. This is meant to be a 50,000-foot view, and certainly I'll be here online for questions as the committee will allow. But one thing I do want to clear up very quickly, I know Clerk Cunningham, he was being tongue in cheek, but I think some folks may have misinterpreted that when he said I was once interested in the clerk's job myself. Yeah, that was 22 years ago, a very long time ago. And ever since Clerk Cunningham has been in office, I have not ever expressed, even entertained a thought of trying to run for clerk, nor am I going to do so many years later as he's going to leave office, as he's already announced in 2026. So this concludes the presentation. I apologize for going a little over, but certainly I can refer back to the slide deck as the committee continues this discussion. I turn it back to Chair Sanchez and Vice Chair Young.
Thank you, Mr. Avalar. Are there any questions or comments on this at this time? Ms. Lewis?
Anita Lewis. So Mark, I was doing research on this last night with our other counties and municipalities, and I thought there had to be a referendum for this.
That is an either or. The county election commission for the county can implement it under section 6A as an ordinance only or as a referendum. It's an either or.
Okay. And then how would these county board or these the election commission, how would they be selected?
Okay, I've referred back to the slide under the second bullet point, sub bullet point. The county board chair, with the advice and consent of the county board, would appoint the 3-person election commission. They would have to have a staggered appointment. So Chair Pirog, provided the ordinance is passed, Chair Pirog would appoint up to 3. Now, under the statute, the clerk is given the right to be on that commission at their own choice and discretion. And if he should choose to be there, then the county board would only appoint 2 members. But they will be appointed to serve staggered terms. And overall, it's a 3-year term. And when the terms are up, the county board chair would appoint again the members of the commission with advice and consent of the board.
And then I was also looking, and there's not a whole lot of information out there, I'm sorry, but is there any statistics or anything that says that having this commission oversee it is going to make our elections more accurate and make people trust it more? I mean, I believe that the county clerk's job, as in most of our counties in Illinois, do a fantastic job. So I didn't see any statistics from any of these other counties that say, well, since we've done this, our voter numbers have gone up or our accuracy has gone up. So I was just curious if there's any data.
There is no straight data that you were seeking there, Member Lewis, but I will point out, though, that as Mr. Zitko said, and why there are so many folks attending this conference out of state, is because doubts have been raised. And the best way you answer questions is within a public body under the Open Meetings Act, and ensure that the residents who attend or watch it on video remote or replay can see that the county, through its election commission, is having an open discussion and it's advocating for the truth. No misinformation, no disinformation. So let me use an example that was not listed on the policy decisions. A topic that's being talked about multiple sources nationwide is something called ballot harvesting. Now, ballot harvesting varies by state to state. It could be the completely laissez-faire system they have in California. It could be a more strict or even outlawed in some states. But every state has a form of ballot harvesting where basically strangers will collect mail-in ballots from voters, provided they're sealed and signed, and they will deliver them for them. Now, ballot harvesting, though it's regulated at the state, it has to be administered by the local election authority. And if that starts getting a greater traction, and it is from all indications from people across the country, some of the more noted leaders, most good example is Scott Pressler, they are advocating and publishing how do you ballot harvest legally in your state and in a jurisdiction. So through the election commission in an open meeting discussion, you can be discussing where are these ballot harvesting collection points? Can they be inside houses of worship under the law? And with legal support from the state's attorney, transparency is tantamount to election integrity. And that's something that could be coming down the pipeline, just like ranked choice voting. This is not meant to get us through the next election or through the next clerk's election. This is looking long-term, and the questions of election integrity are not going to go away long-term. This is a suggested and credible solution to improve the election integrity in an open process.
Mr. Williams, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Do we have an idea what the cost would be, if anything, to the county for implementing a commission like this?
Okay, the cost, the statute under Section 6A mandates that a county the size of Kane must pay the commissioners a minimum amount of $3,200 per year, with the chair receiving slightly more, and the chair is elected from the three commissioners. So there is, let's just say around 10,000 if this county board goes with the minimum set of payment governed by the statute. Now, it will be up to the county board to prevent these costs from getting out of control, as was clearly seen when the Aurora Election Commission was in existence. It's up to the county board to set those pay. This is not meant to be a pension sink or a place for someone to get rich serving the people and overseeing the elections. This is something that's meant to be controlled. The statute says you have to pay. So you have to pay. That doesn't mean you have to pay the maximum. You could pay the minimum amount. So apart from that, the rest should be seamless transition of simply transitioning from the existing election division reporting into the county clerk and report it to the county election commission through the internal accounting controls of the county. The election division employees, that should be seamless to them.
Thank you.
So employees at the clerk's office would still perform their duties for elections. It would just be under advisement of this new commission.
They would no longer be employees of the clerk's office. They would be employees of the election commission through the reporting of an executive director.
Got it. Okay.
And the executive director is identified in the statute.
Thank you. Mr. Tepe?
So who would this commission report to, Mr. Avalar?
The commission.
Actually, I was going to speak to that if I could interrupt just for a moment. Not only with
Mr. Zicko, hold on. Mr. Avalar will answer first.
Okay, thank you. The commission is a board that's overseen through the governing board of the county board. A county election commission reports through, but it is not, it's a standalone board that implements policy. The county board chair appoints the three commissioners, and it would work very similarly to how other counties, for instance, neighboring McHenry County, how they manage their open space. They do it through an advisor, through an appointed board that sets the levy, similar to how a mental health board also works in neighboring McHenry County. And they recommend a levy that the county board would have to approve. So I would see that as a similar operation of the election commission.
So this commission would then set a separate levy and have their own funds?
No, they would not set a levy. They would recommend a levy or recommend a budget that would have to be funded through the county's levy, through the county's normal levy setting process.
So this commission would have an executive director that reported to the commission,
Yes,
and that commission reports to the county board how?
it reports because it is, the members are appointed by the county board chair with advice and consent. So
So it
this is
reports, this commission then reports to the county board chair, or it reports to a committee? How does that happen?
it is self-governance, similar to how it's
Self-governance.
already in place within a county's mental health board or a county's conservation district.
And all of the people associated currently with elections in the clerk's office would report to this executive director?
Correct.
Okay, and they would be in charge of all training and administering of all of the elections?
Correct. You're basically removing the election division responsibilities from the county clerk to the county election commission.
So the county clerk, who is now an elected position, this entire responsibility is going to be placed upon an appointed board.
Correct. of
Where,
which the-
where in anybody's imagination do you think that this is going to help improve anybody's concept of election
Okay.
being done right?
It will
You just
improve.
added an entire level of concern associated with it. As I said in the past, did we learn nothing from the Aurora Commission? Did we learn nothing from the things that are happening in DuPage County? You know, how many legal complaints have there been to the state's attorney where it created any kind of a case in any of the past 3 or 4 elections? The answer is none. We don't have an election problem in this county. And this is just disturbing to me that we're investing this amount of time in something that is just blatantly wrong. And it disturbs me. And I believe me, I will be actively opposing all of this and all of the time that it takes to do this, because it makes absolutely no sense to me. Thank you.
Mr. Surges, you had your hand up?
I can reach out to Mr. Avalar directly, but I think between Mr. Williams and Mr. Tepe, I would just be redundant.
Any other questions or comments on this topic? I think if there's any further discussion, it would come from this committee, perhaps sending their questions, comments, and concerns to Mr. Young. So he and Mr. Avalar could compile those. And if there's something to bring back to this committee, then we'll do so. But as of right now, I think Mr. Avalar sent his presentation to all committee members. So you have that to take a look at, to do your own research. And again, if you have anything, send it to Mr. Young. Mr. Young, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I believe Ken Zitko wanted to speak about something. Is that correct?
Ken, did we cover everything that was asked?
You covered the response. I really just wanted to make sure it was clear that this commission still is under the purview of the county board, and that they do things like appointing the members and so forth. So it isn't just a new level of, the hierarchy plugged in without oversight.
Mr. Chairman, Bates,
Ms.
please.
Ms. Bates, go ahead.
Could you ask that the slides be sent to the entire board, please?
Yes.
Not
we
just
can-
the committee members?
Absolutely. We'll send that out.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Young?
Mr. Sanchez, will you send those out or do you want me to? send
I can
that?
send it out.
Okay,
That's fine.
thanks.
All right. Anything else on this topic? At this
Mr.
time?
Sanchez Surges?
Surges, go ahead.
if you can help me, is it appropriate, is okay to reach to Mr. Avalar, or should we be doing that through board member Young?
I think it's appropriate to reach out to Mr. Avalar. He left his contact information. I just think for the purposes of this committee discussion, if we're going to bring it back to another meeting, I would want everything in that regard funneled through Mr. Young to compile as far as questions, comments, and concerns. But otherwise, feel free to reach out, Mr. Avalar, at any time, of course.
Thank you.
Okay, hearing no further comments or questions, we will move on. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Avalar, for presenting, and Mr. Zicko as well. Executive session, we have no need for executive session. The motion and second to place reports on file.
Mr. Chair, I ask for unanimous consent to place reports on file.
Any objection? I didn't get to do it today, but for those things that aren't attached to money, we can just do a voice vote. I've been reminded of that recently, but unanimous consent achieves similar results. Public comment on non-agenda items. I have no one signed up. So we'll move to adjourn. I'll entertain a motion in a second.
I ask to adjourn.
Tepe moves.
Second.
Young seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.